Woo! Hey everyone. Oh my god, it is raining. It's raining, 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 raining. Ooh. Ooh. Did not expect that to be raining as much when I woke up. Welcome everyone though. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? It's going to be an interesting quali. Welcome everyone. Oh, Lewis has added a little bit more downforce to the car. Okay. Interesting developments here, guys, from FP3 to qualifying. It is raining, as you can tell from the top of the screen there. It says rain, yes, and it's quite significant. It's not greasy, it's definitely wet out there. They are walking up and down the paddock, and Red Bull have added some downforce to the rear of their car, as has Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc is still running a low downforce setup. So, interesting. Hang on. Very interesting. So, yes, this is probably what McLaren wanted. But yeah, rain. Yeah, it's a rain quali. It's going to be rain. Interesting. I do rainbow. Cockpit red flag, then Ferrari will do bad strategies and fumble. It's not a bad bet, to be fair. When will it start? Oh yeah, apologies. I had the session start there. There you go. 10 minutes. It's significantly raining. I mean, looking at the TV images, which for copyright reasons I cannot show, guys. But yeah, this is interesting because this is the first time we've had rain at Vegas. So this will be the first wet session in Vegas, I believe, since its introduction to the calendar. So unknown, a real unknown. Who is going to get it right? Of course, the drivers. They need to get out there. They need to do their job. But who's got it right in relation to their setup choices? Has Charles got not enough downforce in his car? Is that really going to make him suffer? Has Lewis Hamilton made the right decision by adding some downforce to his car? Same as Red Bull. There in PMU, there can't wait for the races to go back overseas so you can see it in the morning. I'm still waking up, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I woke up 20 minutes ago. My alarm went off at past. So, yeah. I've got a coffee. There may be another one made just before the qualifying actually starts. But welcome for everyone for tuning in. If you're like me in the UK or in Europe and you've woken up at this ridiculous time for qualifying, well done. Well done. We're in this together. But I'm waking up, guys. I'm waking up. Hey, Leon. You're going with a Lewis first pole here. It maybe. He did seem to be good even in dry conditions. Will he be able to do the same? Hopefully the session doesn't get red flagged. It is like light rain, so it's not. The track is definitely wet. Of course, qualifying, they can, of course, get the sessions underway more so than what they can in a race because obviously visibility isn't so much of an issue because they're single lap pace. So But yeah, let's hope we see no red flags, and let's see that it'll be green flag conditions to the end. Vegas are flooding. So it doesn't necessarily flood Vegas. Basically, they just have like storm drains and stuff, I believe. So everything washes away like really quickly. It was still awake from 6 a.m. yesterday. How? No. It must be freezing cold out there. Well, yeah, it's 12.8 degrees and it's raining. So that's not cold, though. I mean, 11.6 degrees in the air and it's raining. That's not cold. It's nothing. In the UK, we get rain all the time when it's colder than that. Then it needs only one more win to take the World Drivers' Championship. Incorrect. Particularly. He can't mathematically win it here because even if Oscar DNF'd and he got the maximum 25 points, he would still be less than 50 points. So mathematically speaking, Oscar could still win it because there's a sprint race and with 2 full races remaining. If Lando DNF did both of them and Oscar won both of them, then Oscar would win the championship. So, hey, Bucker. All the way from Bali. Nice. Brunch and quali. Oof. You're just rubbing it in now, guys, aren't you, to me? While it's dark outside. No one's up at this ungodly hour. It's not even 4 a.m. yet. But it's a very nice surprise to see Vegas be raining because this is going to really shake up the grid. Really going to shake it up. $12 p.m. for you. It's lovely. I'm going to be going back to sleep after this is done as well. Depending on whether the little one wakes up. What's this MOM thing you keep seeing on Twitter about next year's regulations? Oh, I can't remember what that acronym stands for. So basically, DRS is being removed. So we have... so there's basically going to be like a push-to-pass system with batteries and things like that. And there's also going to be like active aero. So... manual override mode. There we go. What are my predictions for the race? Because of rain. Oh, God knows. We'll make my predictions for the race when we know the grid at the end of quali. It's 11 p.m. Oh, you guys are all just rubbing it in. Insomniac. I'm not quite an insomniac. I'm just trying to fit sleep in wherever I can. Fall asleep, no issue. Been up since 8 a.m, Adam. Oof. Well, not long to go, guys. Not long to go. Hopefully, this quali session gets underway without any interruptions. It is raining, so that is definitely going to provide us with some intrigue here. Lap times aren't going to be quick. We saw how sketchy it was in the greasy conditions. This may actually fare much better for them, to be fair. A much fuller wet circuit than necessarily the greasy circuit that they had earlier, because that was really tricky. What do I think about F1 26 becoming a mega DLC of F1 25? I don't really have too much opinions on it. I haven't played an F1 game for quite some time. But look, if there's not going to be, personally, if there's not going to be any core mechanic changes and like game engine changes, then a DLC kind of makes sense for a yearly release, you know, because fundamentally it's still the same game. How would I describe Max's chances? I would describe Max's chances as still very high. Max is still my favourite for this weekend, even in wet conditions. We know he's a good wet driver, but even so, like, this car, I think he's just strong here. Yeah, Mick Hackenen's my favourite ever driver. He's the driver that I particularly remember watching growing up. His battles with Schumi. So, who do I think is getting pole from the rain? I still think Max. And well, you guys, that's what you think as well. 52% of you think Max Verstappen, George Russell 20%, Hamilton 17%, Leclerc 10%. So, Charles Leclerc very much well could do so as well. But the thing is with Charles is that he's still running. He's running a dry setup. He's running a setup that has a lower downforce rear wing, and that could really make him lose a lot of time here. So we'll see if it pays off for him. Massa won't get 2008 now. No, that's been confirmed. The judge ruled that out. He could only go to court on the pretense of conspiracy, cause of conspiracy or something it was. So basically, the only outcome for him is that he gets like a very nice financial payout. Boys Shed, I'm very well, thank you. I'm tired, but I'm very well. The family are tucked up in bed. So, yeah. Can we get a poll? Can we do a team poll as well? You're feeling Williams? We'll leave the poll as it is, as we've only got a few minutes now until the qualifying gets underway. But I'll tell you what, yeah, we could see something akin to what we saw at Baku, where we saw signs get through. There's an opportunity here. There is a real opportunity in these conditions for the midfield teams to qualify higher than they normally would. Real opportunity. A Lewis comeback here? I don't know about comeback, but I think he does have a real opportunity. What's my local time? 4 a.m. That's what my local time is right now. Do I think that Canada has too many races? Probably. Yeah, probably. I think 20 is probably the sweet spot. 10 at the start of the year, summer break, and then 10 afterwards. But hey-ho. For content reasons, I'm not going to complain. 24 is quite nice. But yeah, even so, like, it's a lot of weekends throughout the year, obviously, to spend doing this and that. But it's nice. Right, how heavy is the rain looking? It's raining. I would say it's like a light rain, but a consistent rain. And the track is definitely wet. So you'll see intermediate tyres as drivers are making their way to the end of the pit lane. Moments away, guys. I'm going to end the poll. 54% of you think Max Verstappen. That is my bet as well. That is who I'll be banking on. But here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I'm just looking at a weather radar from the McLaren garage. And that rain is here for the session by the looks of it. So there we go. Quali has started. It should be any second now. Slight delay. Green light. Pit exit open. We are go for Quali. And well, this is going to be an interesting one, of course. Oh, they're on the wets. He's on. Is he on the actual wets of the McLarens? Sorry, the Aston Martin's on the full wets. I saw Oscar Piastri was on the intermediates. Normally, the intermediates is what we see. I'm waiting to see if they were on the wets, the Aston Martins, or whether if that's just a difference there in the tyre allocation, because we saw that a little bit in FP3. It is full wets for the Aston Martins. Let's see. Let's see. To be fair, it is very, very wet. It is very wet out there. But we know that the wets aren't necessarily always the tyre to use. But the only reason, it's not, to be fair though, the tyres aren't, to be fair, the tyres aren't not usable, the wet tyres. The reason why we don't see the wet tyre used anymore is because when it comes to the wet tyre being viable to be put onto the car, normally it's the visibility is so poor that they red flag anyway. So that's the reason why the wet tyre is. So it's a fundamental issue with the cars and the ground effect era, not in the amount of spray that they displace, rather than the actual wet tyre itself not being suitable. But we also have another driver, Gabriel Bortoletto, is on the wet compound tyre as well. So Everyone out on intermediates, because I said I saw Oscar Piastri on the intermediates as well. So he should be, or was it Lando Norris I saw? As Oscar Piastri hasn't even left the pit lane yet. That's interesting. Right, here we go. As Norris says, keep an eye on the Astons then with on-balls on stuff. I think the wet could work pretty well, especially at the beginning. So that is what he has just been told. Well, that's what Lando Norris has just told the grid, or his garage there, as Oscar Piastri is making his way out of the pit lane. So Fernando Alonso is going to be our first driver to cross the start-finish line. We will just keep an eye out on him in relation to sector times and so forth. We don't have a benchmark yet in relation to the wet compound tyre, or just in these conditions in general. We saw a greasy track earlier on in FP3, but that is not the case right now. This is significantly wetter. And I have no idea what is going to be a suitable lap time to get through, to be honest with you, as Pierre Gasly has been told to box for full wet tyres. Oscar Piastri is on full wets as well. So this is going to be full wets for the majority of drivers, as we see Haas boxing as well for full wet tyres. We see Colapinto boxing for full wet tyres. And we already have a yellow flag as Isaac Hadjar has gone on at turn 14. That is a big escape road there down at the end of the strip. But Isaac Hadjar already losing control of his car, and he wasn't even on a push lap. Lance Stroll is a driver to keep an eye on in these conditions. He actually does fare much better in the wet weather conditions than a lot of his competitors. So we'll keep an eye on Stroll's progression. But Gasly is now on the wets, as is Ollie Behrman. Are we going to see more drivers dive into the pit lane? Yes, we see the two RBs are in the pit lane. There is Verstappen has gone on as well. Verstappen's gone on at turn 14 on the intermediate tyres. Will he be coming on to the wets? We will see. Lando Norris is boxing onto the wet compound tyres. Lewis Hamilton has stayed out, but you can see, look at the grip level difference that Lewis Hamilton and those on the intermediates in particular have in comparison to that of the Aston Martins on the full wets. A 35.8 for Lance Stroll, whereas Albon and Hamilton there, 41, 39, Leclerc 40. So it's too wet for the intermediates at the moment. It's too wet. Max Verstappen is into pits for wets as well. So we have half the field at the moment on intermediates and half of them on wets. But I do suspect that we will see the wet compound tyres be slapped onto those who are yet to have them put on, as Lance Stroll was purple in the first, purple in the second, and he is not purple in the last. Wow. Lance Stroll. Big moment for him in the last sector. He's 2 seconds off of his teammate. In that last sector, he would have been half a second up on Fernando Alonso, but for some reason Stroll has had a moment which has cost him a considerable amount of time in that last sector, and he is actually in P2 right now. So I'm not sure where Stroll's had this moment, but it's a very wet Vegas circuit out there at the moment, and thankfully qualifying is going to continue right now. It is raining, as you can see at the top of your screen. So Fernando Alonso has a 34.9, so he's improved in the first sector there. We do have drivers now out there on the wet compound tyre. So Nico Hulkenberg, Oscar Piastri is a driver who's on a push lap right now. 36.1 for Oscar, though, only in that first sector, as Lewis Hamilton comes into the pit lane, as does Alex Albon now. But good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you are faring very well. As Lando Norris was, oh my goodness, it is very tricky, very tricky down at the end of the strip. They're aquaplaning, even while not going particularly fast, down into turn 14 on those intermediate tyres. So Max Verstappen actually went into a bit of a spin when he went down into turn 14 and made an excursion there. So it's definitely wet compound tyres. Gabriel Bortoleto did a 2.03 there, 7.5 tenths off of Fernando Alonso, as Lance Stroll had his lap time deleted there, so he clearly had an excursion, which is why his last sector time was so slow. But he's gone quicker than his teammate in the middle sector, much quicker actually, Lance Stroll, as Alonso improves again, a 2-minute flat there, 2-minute flat, 7.7. We are going to see Lance Stroll cross the line, though, and go 7 tenths quicker than that of his teammate. As we said, Lance Stroll he does fare very well in the wet weather conditions. He does seem to have a much better go at it, and that's where his best results have come from. Will we see red flag conditions? I think we will only see red flag conditions if the rain doesn't get any harder, which it currently isn't. It's kind of staying consistent. And we'll only see red flag conditions if someone decides to put it in the wall, which we have yet to see. Oscar Piastri had a very slow lap there, 14.3 seconds off of the pace. The Aston Martins, I did hear, were very good at warming up their intermediate tyres, better than everyone else earlier on in FP3. And Strant's gone purple again in that first sector. So we're only going to see drivers do multiple laps here on this set of wet, on these sets of wets. They're just going to keep going and going and going. The whole field is on the wet compound tyre. I cannot tell you the last time I saw the whole field on wets. That was absolutely crazy. So yes, this is a rare sight that we see here right now, guys, as Pierre Gasly slots into P3 there with a purple last sector for Pierre Gasly. Now remember, the track is probably only going to get quicker and quicker as well, even in these wet weather conditions, as more water is displaced. We could potentially see the intermediates before the end of will we see it before the end of Q1? Probably not, but we'll probably see them before the end of the Q3. As Lawson moves up into P3 there. But you can see lots of track limits violations for a lot of drivers at the moment. But we can see Lewis Hamilton went wide at turn 1. His middle sector and last sector wasn't particularly great. Pierre Gasly's gone quickest in the first sector. He did very well here last year until his engine decided to go pop as Lando Norris moves up into P5. Oscar Piastri is improving as well. Lots of green sectors across the board. We still have 8 drivers yet to set a lap time, though, on the wet compound tyre. Yuki Tsunoda is about to do so as he crosses the line, and he goes only P10, 7.3 seconds off of the pace of Lance Stroll. Kimi Antonelli, he goes P6, 3.2 seconds back. George Russell, how is he faring? It looks like he's quicker than that of the McLaren. And he is indeed quicker than the McLaren. 7 tenths off Lance Stroll. A good first lap there for George Russell. Max Verstappen, how is he faring at the moment? His first sector time is 4 seconds off of the pace. So a very slow first sector for Max Verstappen. Has he maybe backed out of the overall lap? We'll see. He probably just keep going at this moment in time. And he only moves up into P15. So Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen's lap times at the moment are not good enough. They're not able to get clean enough laps in. Fernando Alonso has gone quickest in the first sector. Ollie Behrman looks to be on a flyer at the moment. We'll keep an eye on Ollie Behrman as he's full throttle all the way to the finish line here. Carlos Sainz just had to take to the escape road through turn 5. Brief yellow flag for him as Ollie Behrman goes fastest at 1:59.0 at first time, sub 2 minutes, and he goes fastest. Only for a brief moment, though, as we have Gabriel Bortoleto off at turn 14 as well at the end of the strip there, where we've already seen drivers aquaplaning, but George Russell really does seem to be in the groove. He's already on the pace with a purple first sector there. We have Yuki Tsunoda off now, and that's going to put a spanner in the works here for George Russell, as he would have had to have lifted. And Max Verstappen is round through turn 7 as well. There's yellow flags left, right, and centre as drivers are really struggling to keep their car on track. Max has kept going there. But I think George Russell's most definitely had his lap time compromised there. And I think Carlos Sainz, there was a very brief double yellow for Carlos Sainz through turn 12. So the conditions out there, these drivers, if they're having to get offline and let cars through, I'm watching Charles Leclerc, and Charles Leclerc went straight on at turn 14 as well. So drivers trying to find the limit out there, and they are getting punished. Charles Leclerc down in 13 for the moment, 5.5 seconds off of the fastest time of Fernando Alonso, who set a 57.6 there. Lance Stroll is now off as well after he set a purple middle sector. So Lance Stroll, who's been going very well there, is another yellow flag in turn 5. Oh my goodness, this is probably the most yellow flags we've seen in a session ever right now. Oscar Piastri slowing down through turn 14. Lance Stroll was improving there. He could have maybe gone onto pole position, provisional pole. It's Q1, but it could have gone to the top as George Russell. Even though George Russell had to lift and back out of his middle sector due to a yellow flag, he still did a much better lap time. So George Russell is definitely one to keep an eye on. Charles Leclerc has his lap time deleted for track limits, so he is down in the bottom 2, as is Max Verstappen, as Max Verstappen can only improve to 18th at the moment. So lots of drivers here with 6.5 minutes remaining at risk. We currently have Piastri, Verstappen and Leclerc in the bottom 5. But can they get a clean lap in? You think, and would suspect if they could just get a clean lap in, that will be enough for him. As Lance Stroll again goes purple in the first sector, as Ocon jumps all the way to the top with a 57.1. So yes, track is improving. Thank you, Taku, for that confirmation there, as Esteban Ocon has just shown us, as Antonelli goes fastest in the middle sector. Carlos Sainz is noted for rejoining unsafely there, as Hamilton moves up into P6 briefly, as Liam Lawson then moves up into P5 for a purple last sector. Lance Stroll, we'll keep an eye on him though, as he's about to cross the second sector line. Is it purple in the middle sector as well? It is Lance Stroll. He's your fastest man out on track at the moment, as Charles Leclerc is off, and this could be a crash for Charles Leclerc. This could be a crash for Charles Leclerc, because this does not look like it's a double yellow through turn 16, and I think Charles Leclerc is in the wall here. Oh my goodness, has he got going again? Has there been contact? He is moving. He will probably make his way into the pit lane. Has there been contact for Charles Leclerc, as he nearly gets tagged by that of Lando Norris and by one of the RBs, as they just couldn't see him at the last minute? No, Charles has got going again, as Carlos Sainz has gone quickest in the middle sector. Lance Stroll looks like he is going to potentially improve, but has that double yellow got in his way? You would suspect it has, as Lance Stroll does go to the top of the timing screens, even with a considerably slow last sector there because of that double yellow, as Carlos Sainz goes from last to first. Big changes here. Still not entirely sure what happened with Charles Leclerc as to why he was going so slow. He is going again. He is out there on a lap right now. He is at risk. Max Verstappen is at risk. Where does Max Verstappen go? He goes into P5. Gasly is off through turn 14 as well. George Russell has gone fastest in the first sector, so there are big changes developing here. This track, Behrman improves and moves up into P3 as Oscar Piastri in all of that went from near the bottom all the way up to P2. Charles Leclerc is still at risk here. A 33.389 in the first sector, though, is good. It's only a couple of attempts off of George Russell, who's fastest right now. Lance Stroll moves down a position as Ocon moves up into P4. Big developments here within the closing stages of this Q1 session, as Colapinto now moves up into P6 and pushes Verstappen and Lando Norris down. Fernando Alonso is improving. Kimi Antonelli, look at these green sectors all across the board. It's very difficult to keep on top of. 4 minutes remaining here. It's a double one. It's a 1-2 for Williams right now at this stage of Q1. So the track is massively improving. Drivers just need to ensure that they don't bring out any yellow flags. Fernando Alonso, as Norris moves up into P2. Fernando Alonso is quickest in the middle sector. He is probably going to be going to the top of the timing screens as well. Currently the fastest is a 1:55.6 by Carlos Sainz. Fernando Alonso on the wet tyres, and he goes P2, 1 and a bit temps behind Carlos Sainz. Verstappen, who is in P10, he is improving. He's just gone fastest out of anyone in that middle sector. George Russell, though, how is he faring? He's currently in. He was currently down towards near 15th, as he's now moved up into P2, less than a tenth behind Carlos Sainz. A great lap from Carlos Sainz, but Pierre Gasly's gone purple in the first until just now. Lando Norris took it away from him. We have Bortoleto, Gasly, Lawson, Tsunoda and Hulkenberg in the bottom 5 with 3 minutes remaining of this very wet Q1 session. Every driver on the wet compound tyre. It's whoever last one crosses the line. It's definitely going to be big changes. The last driver who crosses the line could go arguably from 20th all the way to the top of the timing screens, as Max Verstappen makes big gains there and finally gets a very good lap time in, a 1:55 flat from him. But you can see so many lap times deleted because of double yellows at turn 12. Lando Norris was fastest in the first sector, though. Carlos Sainz just improved as well, 55.244 for him. George Russell is green again in that first sector. Ollie Behrman was improving until he made an error in the last, in that middle sector, yellow for him. But Norris has gone fastest in the first and second sector. He's getting a cheeky little toe from Gabriel Bortoleto down at the end of the strip as well. Lewis Hamilton is now in the drop zone. He is in P16. Bortoleto 17th. He's now 17th, sorry, as we see Nico Hulkenberg move out of the drop zone up into P9. So big gains to be had here, as you see Liam Lawson as well do similar with the fastest last sector for him. He's moved up into P5. Hamilton will be starting his lap again, no doubt. Gabriel Bortoletto is improving and only moves up into P16 though. Lando Norris goes third fastest, so he had a very slow last sector there of 43.1. Hadjar moves up into P4. Gasly's fastest again in that first sector. So many green sectors. We'll keep an eye out on Fernando Alonso, Fernando Alonso's yellow in both the first and second. No improvements for him. Charles Leclerc is improving though. He's currently in 15th. Can he get a decent lap time across the board? He can, all the way up into P1, 15th to P1. That now moves Oscar Piastri down into 15th. He is not far behind, so we'll stay tuned with him as Antonelli doesn't improve there, and Albon's gone fastest in the first sector. Carlos Sainz, though, can he regain P1? He can't, but only by 17 thousandths of a second there. As Lance Stroll goes all the way to the top of the timing screens of 54.4. Piastri moves out of the bottom there. Bottom drop zone into P2. This is going to be chopping and changing. There's a yellow flag of Ollie Behrman off at turn 14. Albon's fastest in the first sector. We have Charles Leclerc improving again. They're improving lap by lap. And as we said, it is going to be with 45 seconds remaining to start your lap. Get across that checkered flag. It is going to be whether or not who is out there last. And, well, Lewis Hamilton is at risk here. A 41.1 in that middle sector for him is not a good lap time. Neither is that first sector. So Lewis Hamilton really has it all to do. Currently down in 19th position. He slapped a bit more downforce on that rear wing, and it could be Lewis Hamilton, who looked like he was going to be faring quite well here, could be out. Alex Albon is fastest in that first sector. Green in the second sector. He's going to be improving. How about Liam Lawson? He improves as well up into P5. As Ollie Behrman did actually go into the wall, by the way. Ollie Behrman did actually go into the wall, as it looks like Alex Albon has backed out. Alex Albon has backed out here. He was purple in the first sector, and what has happened with Alex Albon is he had a spin. Alex Albon, I'm not entirely sure what's occurred there. What has happened with Alex Albon? I'm just watching the onboard of Alex. Oh, Alex Albon! Oh my goodness! He's had a tank slapper and he's gone straight into the wall and he's broken his front right suspension. But thankfully, he's been able to make it into the pit lane. So Alex Albon is out of this session and he will be gone. Lewis Hamilton is definitely at risk here. It's all or nothing for Lewis Hamilton now, but I think he might have gone out here. So a big moment for Alex Albon. He actually hit the barriers. We'll keep an eye on Lewis Hamilton's first sector time, but I think Lewis Hamilton is out here. Antonelli could be out, but he's ready to cross the start-finish line as Lewis Hamilton is out. Lewis Hamilton is dead last. Lewis Hamilton is out of this session. Oh my God. Oh my God, Max Verstappen improves to P2. Kimi Antonelli doesn't improve. A 65-second last sector for Kimi Antonelli. We've lost Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, Gabriel Bortoletto, Kimi Antonelli, and Alex Albon there. Behrman survives. Just Gasly through, Hadjar through, Norris in P12, Hulkenberg is through, Ocon is through, but Colapinto looks like he's just had a moment in turn 14 as well. But, wow. Wow, spicy indeed. Gasly improves there at the very end. Oh my God, we still have drivers on laps. Hulkenberg's still on a lap, sorry. This is how long it's taking to do these lap times as Hulkenberg improves up to P7 as well. And, well, Colapinto, he will be through. But Alex Albon, who was massively improving there, he had the fastest first sector you can see, had a tank slapper out of turn 16, and that front right went bam, into the wall on the right-hand side. Broke his front right suspension. But Lewis Hamilton, though, dearie me, Lewis Hamilton. What has happened there? Not entirely sure. Unable to get a lap time in. Added more downforce to the rear of that car, and he has been unable to make it out of Q1 in conditions that normally he relishes in, but doesn't seem like that is the case today. Dear me. So watching the onboard again of Alex Albon, what happened? And yeah, he just as he got down on powers, as he was getting out of turn 16, Alex Albon, the rear was getting loose, and then as he put his foot on the loud pedal, that rear just went, no, not having any of it. So yeah. I'm out. Too much speaking is what Alex Albon told his engineer. as that is some shot of him making his way into the pit lane with his front right pointing in the complete opposite direction that he is travelling. If Vegas didn't have rain, Lewis would have been fine. Maybe not. I mean, look, he'll put a new... depending on the track conditions tomorrow, he'll go back to the setup that obviously he liked earlier on this afternoon in FP3. But yeah, clearly whatever happened there didn't work for him. I'm not going to comment too much further. Really pains me as a Lewis Hamilton fan, but also I don't know if he got held up by traffic and so forth. He may have done. I don't know if it was driver error. Probably driver error is what I'm putting it more down to. So, hang on. As Hamilton says, he couldn't get the tyres to work. Lewis says he just couldn't get the tyres to work. So, or Ferrari thinking they sent him out into a massive cars when he changed to wets. They panicked as there was more space behind. Terrible. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Yuki Tsunoda is being noted for a yellow flag infringement. So he's out in P19. Kimi Antonelli out in 17th as well. Gabriel Bortoletto out. So, yeah, lots of drivers there out. It takes an act of Mother Nature to get Stroll out of Q1. Yeah, well done to Stroll. Well done to Stroll. But definitely wet weather tyres for sure. Every time Lewis Hamilton takes a hot lap, there's always a yellow flag in front of him, twice in Sector 3. Was it really? Yeah, there was so many yellow flags there that it was difficult to keep an eye on. So, yeah, maybe poor timing for him. But his sector times didn't look good anyway. If we have a look at the sector times, so I'll show you them here. So if I show you the sector times, you can see that Lewis in Sector 1 wasn't good enough anyway, a 33.5 compared to, I mean, look, he's a full second off of the pace up front. Then Sector 2 was dead last, and then Sector 3 wasn't good anyway. So, yeah, not good enough. Sector 2 obviously looks like really, I mean, Sector 1 and Sector 2 is where he's really lost the time. So, and that's where he's saying he's lost the grip. So... has the rain stopped? It has stopped. It has stopped. So you can see here at the top it says rain, no. Rain, no. So no rain at the moment. It was a crowded session. Yeah, it most definitely was a crowded session. Changing to inters? I don't think it will still be inter. I mean, I think they'll probably still stay to wets, to be fair. Will it be inters? Maybe. We'll see. Hey, Nitro. Your name changed from Gavin. Why has it done that? Good to see you there, mate. What's the normal quality time in Vegas? Well, pole position last year was a 32.2, 32.3. So quite considerably off the pace here. We did a 1:55 there as the fastest time. So yeah, good 25 seconds off the pace. Not sure if the inters are worth it yet. No, I reckon we'll probably see the wets for the first half of Q2, and then maybe intermediates as the session goes on and a drier line forms. So. Racing line is starting to become dry. Not a lot though, but I feel it is into season. We'll see. We'll see. Not long to find out. There's yellow flags out there just because marshals are out on track because they're trying to find. Oh, hang on. What happened with Lewis there? What did Lewis do there? Lewis runs over the cone as he's preparing a lap through turn 14 and 15. He had Alex Albon in front of him, and he's gone into... I think Lewis got a cone stuck under his car. Lewis, but all of his own doing, he's decided to try and cut the corner through turn 14 and 15. And he ran over the cone that's on the inside of the curb, and it got stuck under his car. And then he just really had big moments in his last couple of laps. I'm not surprised. He's got a big What is he doing? I don't know what he's doing, though. That's absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. So watching Charles Leclerc's moment. Oh! Well done, Charles Leclerc. Well done, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc had to properly save a step out of the rear through turn 16, and he actually stalled the car. He stalled the car. So that's why there was a double yellow for Charles Leclerc. So, yeah. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Big moments there from a lot of drivers. But the big news is Lewis Hamilton is out. Yuki Tsunoda, Bortoleto, Antonelli, and Alex Albon with a crash. Israel, thank you for Secure Storage Sheds. Thank you for becoming part of the pit crew, buddy. Much appreciated. And welcome everyone who has been subscribing to the channel as well. And thank you for those who are in Europe in particular and the UK in solidarity for this very early morning session. Hamilton should take a new engine and start from the pit lane. I think for cost cap reasons, they're probably not going to do that, though. So I thought if any of the Ferrari drivers would struggle, it would be Leclerc. You're surprised. Well, Leclerc did struggle, but Lewis, yeah, definitely struggled. I mean, look, Lewis did have the pace. He clearly didn't have, obviously, the tyres up to temperature, but in those closing moments, clearly it's all of his own doing. Not being able to get through. So Q2 will start at 5:30. So your target's talking just over 3 minutes, guys, or 3 minutes time. Is it early morning if you haven't slept yet? Yes, it still is. Thank you for the 5, by the way. Lewis has a lot of bad luck. Been watching for a long time. Thought I might as well give you a bag. Oh, thank you, mate. You've been watching me since you started following F1. Oh, well, good to be a part of your F1 experience, man. Hamilton should probably focus on his business endeavours and move on from part in F1. Nothing more to prove. I disagree. I mean, look, there's nothing more to prove for him, of course. But look, we've said it many times that this regulation set just hasn't suited him. 2026 will be obviously the true test. I think everyone said coming into this season as well, like, look, it's great that he's joined Ferrari. What a great moment it is for the sport. But look, no one had high expectations for him in Ferrari, least of all in this regulation set. So it's all about 2026. And if he is still poor in 2026, and Ferrari particularly don't provide a good car, then yeah, I think it's time for him to retire and just call it that. Especially if Ferrari aren't going to make a decent car. So Q2 is delayed only by a few minutes, guys. It will be back underway in under 2 minutes. Albon was looking good in practice as well. Yeah, Albon was looking good. And he did a purple first sector as well. So I'm looking at the tyres on the drivers in the pit lane, and they are on wet compound tyres, guys. So it is still the wet compound tyre. I don't know if anyone's risking the intermediates, but the rain has stopped. But everyone is on the wets from what I can see at the moment. Yes, everyone is still on the wet compound tyre. I thought Aston Martin was out in Q1. You thought incorrectly. They are through. They want their cones back, yeah. My pleasure, Alex. My pleasure. Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Over 2,000 of you right now. So yeah, that's more than I ever expected. At this early stage in the morning for qualifying. So yeah, welcome. Well, obviously for a lot of you, it's a nice, suitable time of the day. But for many of us, it isn't. But what a session you just missed in Q1. What a crazy session. Let's see if Q2 will be the same. Currently no rain falling. It is very cool out there, but we already have an interesting grid at the back. With Lewis Hamilton in P20, Tsunoda P19, Bortoleto 18th, Antonelli, who many expected to challenge for the race win here this weekend, is down in 17th. Alex Albon did smash his Williams up there in P16. So let's see. It'll be inters in this session, I bet. I think there'll be inters at some point, yeah. With it not raining, it will be inters at some point. But it depends how much water they displace. That's the thing, isn't it? So here we go. Green light, pit exit open. We go again. Brand new sets of wets for Lando Norris there. We'll see if that is the case for many of the drivers. Yes, Lance Stroll is on a brand new set of wets. George Russell will be as well. Remember, we saw 155s in the end of Q1 there. So we'll see if they're able to do that again. I know, Prime Mover. Yeah, we have it so hard, us Brits. 4 AM quali. Representatives from Pirelli, we told you we needed wets for every race. How is tyre temp relevant? So it provides grip in the rubber. So tyres are made out of a form of rubber, and if the hotter they are, the stickier they become, the more grip that they're provided. But of course, you don't want them too hot, otherwise they don't perform. They're not too sticky, but yeah, they don't perform as you should. So you need to get temperature in them. So if it's cold, then it's not going to work very well. They're not going to stick. S25 was made incompetently. I agree. Yeah, I think the S20. I think the Ferrari car of this year is a fundamentally flawed car. We've discussed this. They went down I'd love to dig deep. I'll have to go back into the comments from Ferrari engineers and so forth at the start of the season when it was discovered that they'd changed their concept for this year in the last year of a regulation set, what their reasons for it were, because it's clearly wrong. They should have just developed on the base that they had from last year. I don't know why you're trying to I don't know why they tried to do that in the last year of regulation set. It just seems utterly ridiculous from any perspective, from performance, a business perspective. Yeah, and it's clearly backfired. But anywho, here we go. Q2 is underway, guys. Welcome for joining me. If you hit that like and subscribe button, we're nearly at 65,900 subscribers. So that's brilliant for this early morning session. So 2 more sessions to go. They're on the wet compound tyres. Let's see what Lando Norris can do. The track is a bit dry. There is a bit more of a race. There is a racing line that is forming out there. So yes, it might not be long until we get to those wet compound tyres as Lando Norris makes his way through Sector 1 there with a 32.712. And in relation to the fastest first sector time we have seen, that is 4 tenths off of Alex Albon's fastest first sector time, where he eventually crashed at the end of Q1. Lando Norris, though, making his way through Sector 2 around the sphere. We'll see if anyone else is able to improve on that first sector time. And George Russell does with a 32.496. That's pretty equal to what his fastest first sector time was in Q1. Isaac Hadjar, 33.2 for him, so not particularly quick, half a second, nearly 8 tenths off of the pace of George Russell. Lando Norris does a 38.589. That is the fastest middle sector we've seen today. So good quick lap time there for Lando Norris. Definitely pace improvement. George Russell, though, could be taking that away from Lando Norris very quickly, though, as he makes his way through that second sector. No, he's lost a significant amount of time there. He's lost nearly a second in that middle sector, George Russell, so not a good middle sector for him, as Lando Norris definitely has the advantage here in Q2. Lando will be crossing the start-finish line first, though, but we will see, of course, multiple laps on this, probably same set of tyre. I wonder if anyone will try and risk the intermediate tyre early on here in this session, as Lando Norris crosses the line and does a 153.3. A 42.0 in that in that last sector isn't particularly quick for him. As Lance Stroll, you can see there, goes 4 tenths quicker in that last sector alone on Lando Norris, and he is 4 tenths back. George Russell moves up into P2, so yes, with that full second nearly loss in Sector 2, he is only 1.5 tenths off of Lando Norris, so George Russell would have gone sub 53 seconds there on Lando Norris if it wasn't for a conscious mistake in Sector 2. Oscar Piastri improving, though, a 32.4 for him in the first sector, but then that fastest first sector time has been taken away by Lance Stroll, as we can see Lawson pushing his teammate further down there, and Colapinto has made an error somewhere in that last sector and in that middle sector as well, which is why he's 2.5 seconds off the pace. Pierre Gasly slots into P5. We'll keep an eye out on George Russell again, though, as he's done a 32.2. Lando Norris, mistake for him in the first sector, a 36.8. He's had to back out of it, and Lance Stroll has been let through. Oscar Piastri, though, a 40.7 in the middle sector is slow for Oscar Piastri. That's a significantly slow middle sector for Oscar, as it is also for Charles Leclerc as well, as Charles Leclerc will be crossing the line and not going very quick as he goes P10. So Charles Leclerc backed out of that lap, no doubt, as Carlos Sainz moves up into P7. As we have a yellow flag as George Russell is off through turn 12. Again, he was going quick, purple in the first sector, but he's locked up and used the escape road at turn 12, as we've seen so often this weekend. So George Russell out. Unfortunately, his lap time will be deleted for those track limits violations, and you can see their confirmation, a yellow middle sector of a 47.299. Oscar Piastri only goes P11. Charles Leclerc, though, he's just had to back out of his first initial lap, which was a 157.5, which has him dead last, as Lance Stroll goes quickest, a 52.8 for him, even with a slow sector 3. As Charles Leclerc does the fastest first sector out of anyone. How can he fare on that low downforce setup that he is stuck with for this wet qualifying, to hopefully try and give him an advantage in the drier conditions for the race tomorrow? Can he fare very well in this middle sector? Let's see how he gets on. Confirmation of George Russell's track limits violation there. He'll be going again. He is definitely looking like a man to beat, and that is on a set of 11 lap old wets. Max Verstappen, he only went up into P6. He is improving, though. He is going to be crossing the line very shortly as he makes his way out of the chicane of 15 and 16. Charles Leclerc, 39.228 in the middle sector. That's not too shabby for Charles Leclerc on that setup. And, of course, the car is designed to go quicker in a straight line than it is round corners, as Max Verstappen goes fastest at 52.693 for the Red Bull driver. So a good banker lap for him. Fernando Alonso slots up behind his teammate in P3, only a couple of hundred separating them. Charles Leclerc, though, he could be going quickest here, fastest in the first sector. Not too bad middle sector, but slower compared to Max Verstappen. And, well, he's had a significantly slow last sector there, Charles Leclerc. Not quite sure what happened. Maybe a big moment again out of the chicane, just watching his onboard. What happened? And I don't know, just maybe a bit too cautious under braking, maybe, Charles. Maybe a bit too cautious under braking as Carlos Sainz moves up into P2. Wow, Carlos Sainz. Could we see another Baku-esque performance from Carlos Sainz and him starting on the front row? Well, not if Oscar Piastri has anything to say about it, as he goes all the way up into P1 there. 13 thousandths of a second quicker than that of Max Verstappen, just over 100th of a second separating the two of them. Top three are separated by less than a tenth. Charles Leclerc has gone quickest in that first sector again, though, as you can see, a 31.929. George Russell, how's he faring? No, this lap is not good for him, so no doubt this will be his push lap. Or maybe he's just used too much of those wet compound tyres and will he be diving into the pit lane? No, he's going to stay out. But lots of green sectors across the board, lots of yellows as well. So drivers, it seems, aren't able to completely push now, as they are seeing a considerable racing line form. I think it's intermediates, you know. I reckon someone's going to risk the intermediate. It seems like that we are at that stage. So it's got to be inters. I think so. I think there's a offline. Yes, offline. It does seem like, I mean, you do still want to have the wets, but there's enough of a racing line now formed where the intermediate is the one, and I'm surprised no one's pulled the trigger yet. We have 6 minutes remaining in this session. Max Verstappen starting another push lap on this set of wets. I wonder if maybe Fernando Alonso might go for it. Lance Stroll's done it. Lance Stroll, of all people, has done it. Here we go. Lance Stroll. Lando Norris is improving. You can see there, actually getting a cheeky little toe from what seems like his teammate as he makes his way down the strip. No DRS activated just yet, of course, with it still being wet weather conditions. But Lando Norris, purple in the middle sector, a not too shabby first sector as well, as Max Verstappen goes second fastest out of anyone in that first sector. But Lance Stroll, all eyes on Stroll, who's on the intermediate tyre. So no one else is pitting yet. If Stroll starts setting, as we have a yellow flag, George Russell off. Lando Norris moves up into P2, so he's up there. Significant improvement from him as Liam Lawson. Oh my goodness, Lawson is fastest at 52.1. I missed that completely. But that was the time that Lance Stroll had to do it, because there's not going to be enough time to get temperature into those tyres. So we will see. So Colapinto currently in the drop zone, but he's going to be improving. As Hadjar goes to the top of the timing screen, say, oh my God, we have an RB12 quicker than both the McLarens, as Colapinto can only move himself up into 14th. So not a good lap time for Colapinto right now, as Verstappen goes fastest in the middle sector. So good lap time, it seems, for him on the cards here, but he does have Pierre Gasly right in front of him, who's looking to start his last couple of laps here with only 4 minutes remaining. George Russell goes fastest in the first sector, as Verstappen does go quickest with a 51.593. So big improvements here, big gains, as we have mentioned. There is a significant racing line forming here, and those wet compound tyres up to temperature are starting to perform. George Russell fastest in the first sector, though. We'll see how he fares. Can he make it through turn 12 without locking up and bringing out the yellow flag and taking to the escape road, which he has done already today after even setting a fastest first sector? It does seem like he can, as he makes his way down the strip now, George Russell, but it's a slow middle sector of 39.161, so another error for George, who finds himself in P11 right now. We saw Ollie Bearman only stay P12. So at the moment, it is Russell, Bearman, Hulkenberg, Colapinto and Gasly at risk, as Sainz improves again and goes up into P1. A 40.889 in the last sector, purple from him, and purple overall of a 51.5. So Carlos Sainz relishing these conditions right now, just as he did in Baku. Charles Leclerc, though, goes fastest in that first sector. He's just gone 3.5 tenths quicker than George Russell in that first sector last time out, Charles Leclerc. But we know that he's been losing time around the rest of the circuit, as George Russell, even with a slow middle sector, goes up into P3. So a big gain from him. Lance Stroll, though, on those intermediates, not able to get them up to temperature yet, it seems. 34.728 for him in that first sector. Let's see if he's going to be able to get... It's probably not this lap where those intermediates are going to be good. It's going to be the next lap or so. He probably should be able to get 2 laps in. Should be able to get a couple of... No, he's going to get one more lap in. Yeah, be able to cross the line. No, he's only going to be able to do one more lap, so... Charles Leclerc, though, let's keep an eye on him as he makes his way down to the end of the strip. Fernando Alonso is on a push lap as well, but he's had a bit of a... He's not too shabby. It's a yellow middle sector, but a 38.9 is still not too bad in the grand scheme of things in that middle sector, and this should be an improvement for Fernando Alonso, who currently finds himself in P10, 1.3 seconds off of Carlos Sainz's time. Will this be enough, though, for him? Getting a cheeky little toe from Max Verstappen, and it is an improvement for him, up into 4th for him. So, Lance Stroll, Charles Leclerc only moves up into P6. So, Charles Leclerc, I would say, is at risk. The McLaren's most definitely at risk right now. Lando Norris did go quicker in that first sector, though, and he's gone quicker in the second sector. Oscar Piastri, a 39.3 for him. He's a full second off of his teammate this lap in that middle sector. So all eyes on those below him, particularly Lance Stroll, who's on the intermediates. Gasly, Ocon, Bearman, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Piastri is under pressure here, because this is not going to be an improvement, you do presume, as Hulkenberg only moves up into P10. Right there, we've just over a minute remaining of this Q2 session for Oscar Piastri's outside championship hopes. While it's an improvement there of 52.481, it is definitely leaving him at risk with only 3 tenths ahead of the drop zone at the moment. Lance Stroll will keep an eye as Norris, in comparison, goes fastest with a 51.3, 1.5 tenths nearly quicker than that of Carlos Sainz. So very, very big contrast there from the two McLarens. Oscar Piastri needs to go. He needs to be on a push lap right now. I don't know if he is, but we will see. Lance Stroll, is he going to be improving? It's a 33.2 for him in the first sector. So, no, it does seem to be for the intermediates. I don't think Lance Stroll has enough. It didn't have enough time to get those intermediates up to temperature, which is a real shame from him. Colapinto didn't improve there, but he'll be, no doubt, on a final push lap here. So this is it, guys, for those drivers. They have 20 seconds remaining to cross the start-finish line and start a final push lap. Liam Lawson is doing that. Pierre Gasly is going to be doing that, as will Max Verstappen is going to be crossing the line now to finish this session. A 38.1, fastest in the middle sector for Max Verstappen, and he goes not an improvement, as Max can only do a 44.0 in the last sector. Big moment for Colapinto. Big moment for Colapinto. As just watched the onboard of Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen went very deep into turn 14, almost went off track there as Charles Leclerc crosses the line. He won't be able to improve now. So, who is going to improve? Who is going to push who out here? Oscar Piastri definitely at risk, but Lance Stroll does not look like he's going to be improving, and he doesn't improve on those intermediate tyres. Just a bit too late for the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll on those intermediates. Probably should have stayed on those wet compound tyres. Like to know whose decision that was to come onto that tyre. Esteban Ocon is done as well. Colapinto's gone off again at turn 12. Colapinto's gone off. Is he going to be able to get the car going again? He will do. George Russell puts the fastest lap in of anyone there at the very end of 150.9. Liam Lawson has had to back out of his lap there, which is a real shame for him. 38.8 for him in that middle sector. So Lawson was significantly improving until he had to lift off there. Carlos Sainz improves at the very end of 51.1. Who we keep an eye on? Pierre Gasly. So all eyes on Pierre Gasly really right now. Piastri only goes 9th fastest, and I think Piastri has survived because Gasly is the only driver in the bottom 5 who can improve here, as everyone else, the Haas's, Colapinto and Stroll, have crossed the line already. Hadjar moved up into P2 at the very end. So all eyes on Gasly as he makes his way through turn 15 and 16. Can Gasly get this Alpine into Q3 once again? Or will Hulkenberg find himself in Q3? All eyes on Gasly as he makes his way to the finish line as Lawson moves himself up into P6. So it's a double Q3 for RB. And Gasly does push himself up into P7 there and pushes Hulkenberg down. And, well, Oscar Piastri, by the skin of his teeth, gets through there at the end. No one able to improve behind him. Looks like quite a large margin in the end. Nearly 7 tenths, 6 tenths really, for Oscar Piastri to Hulkenberg in P11 there. But too close for comfort, you would suspect, for Oscar Piastri. And we have lost Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Ollie Behrman, and Franco Colapinto there in the closing stages of Q2. There we go. So the question will be now. Ladies and gents, will be, do they run the intermediate now from the get-go? Or is it still the wet compound tyre? That's the question. Because really, Lawson noted for a yellow flag infringement. I don't think he went slower. Nah, they'll remove that. You can see even on the Delta that Lawson was slower. He improved overall, but that's because he was really quick in the first sector and the last sector. So, do they still have wets left? So they only have 2 sets of wet tyres, I believe. So that's why George Russell saved his set of wet tyres for a brand new set of wet tyres for Q3. So a lot of drivers there used a brand new set. But you saw George Russell go quickest even on 17 lap old wets. So Lawson didn't even the last lap, he was already in. Yeah, but you don't know at that point though. Shame for Stroll. So sad that he pitted for it and could have topped Q2 if he had stayed out on wets. Yeah, they've missed the trick there, haven't they? It does look like, do you know what? It just does look like that it's still just a bit too wet offline. That's the problem. And I think, I guess as well, the problem, there you go, no further investigation. So swiftly removed there, rightfully so. Rightfully so. Q3 session will be underway at 4 minutes time, guys, 4 minutes time. Are the wets resilient to wear? They are. Yeah, they last a lot longer in wet conditions, of course. But as soon as the track starts to dry up, then they start to take a bit of a pounding. So, but yeah, I think the intermediates are probably still a decent tyre. But the problem is he didn't have enough time to get those intermediates up to temperature. That's probably what it was. So. Exactly, Taco. Yeah, they need to start with him. It was too late of a move. It was a valiant effort, but he fell short. So, who's going to get pole? I would say my favourite right now is still George. Well, I thought it would be Max, but I think my favourite right now is George Russell. I think George Russell is the only driver that I've seen who is just consistently looking like he's improving lap upon lap upon lap. And yes, he's had a couple of lockups, but I think he is the driver who is looking confident for pole right now. Temp and confidence are needed. Exactly. Yeah, you need to have the confidence to push in these conditions, and of course that builds temperature. So you can't be cautious, because otherwise the car's not gonna come to you because those temperatures are gonna take longer to get up where necessary. What is my take on Oscar's slide in the second half of this year? Pressure, Lando just finally getting something comfortable with the car. I think it's a combination of Lando has finally got his act together and shown the advantage that he probably has had over Piastri. Well, he definitely has had over Piastri since their time together. And they said from the start of the season this was going to be a championship of who makes the least mistakes, and Oscar was most definitely making not as many mistakes as Lando Norris. And I said this from the get-go, that I think Lando, on his peak performance, on his peak days, is still quicker than Piastri. And I think what we've seen is towards the second half of the season is that Lando has hit those peak performances a lot more consistently than, of course, Oscar, which is an understatement. And it's been compounded by the fact that we've arrived at circuits where they don't favour Oscar Piastri's driving style, compounded with the fact that he's seen a championship lead start to dwindle away. He's made some big errors off of the back of it. And I know he makes reference in an interview, Piastri, to the Monza situation, that affected him a lot. I think you need to get over that very quickly. You can have concerns over it, but I think in the grand scheme of things, that's not an excuse. That's not a valid excuse, in my opinion, for your driving performances out on track, which have cost you your 34-point lead, 32-point lead that you had after Zandvoort. Even after that decision in Monza, whatever your thoughts and opinions of it are, Oscar still had a 29-point lead. He lost 3 points there. So he still had more than a race win lead over Lando after Monza. And I don't think that's a valid excuse for his poor driving performances since then, which of course have then also been very compounded by the fact and exaggerated that Lando has really got his act together. So Oscar is stuck in a slippery setup watching Bottle, Mexico, Finnair, Sao Paulo, Hightail Wear, and now Vegas. Yeah, I mean, it's not so much a slippery setup, it's the fact that the slippery track surfaces, like less low grip surfaces, is where he struggles in relation to his driving style, compared to Lando, who, it's not to say Oscar's bad at those tracks and that particular driving style, but he's definitely not as good as Lando, who excels in those. And that's the problem. It's like it's exaggerated. The gap is exaggerated because his teammate excels in those conditions compared to him. So that was always going to be the case. So green light, pit exit open, and we have intermediate tyres from the get-go, guys, as we said. So plenty of time to get these tyres up to temperature. This is going to be interesting. This could really shake up the field again here, because who performs better on intermediates than wets? Got to applaud Leclerc for somehow getting into Q3 with that setup. I thought were top fit. Leclerc getting into Q3 here is tremendous on a low downforce setup. Everyone else has added a bit of wing, I believe. I think Russell is maybe the only driver who didn't make any downforce changes to his car. I think that Mercedes is very well balanced for this weekend, as we knew it would be heading into this weekend. But I don't think he's made any compromise to set up either, and he's still like quick in these conditions. Verstappen has definitely added a bit of downforce to the car, and I presume some others may have done as well. So. Lando didn't let Hungary last year affect him. 81 is supposed to be calm. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, it's not to say, look, Oscar, last thing I'm going to touch on it because we're about to start Q3. It's not that Oscar shouldn't be annoyed about that. He's totally within his right to be annoyed about it. I think as many would, as McLaren seem to have kind of gone back on their word and changed the goalposts in the moment. However, get over it. You need to put that stuff behind you very quickly. In a driver's championship, in any kind of sport and stuff, those sort of decisions. You can't dwell on it. But anywho, here we go. Right, so Charles Leclerc will be the first driver to cross the start-finish line and start this flying lap. So thank you everyone for tuning in for this very early qualifying session for the majority of us in Europe and the UK. But for those of you everywhere else across the world, I hope you are enjoying a chaotic Vegas qualifying session, the first ever wet session that we have had here, full wet session that we have had here in Vegas since its introduction a couple of years ago. Of course, we'll be back bright and early as well for the race tomorrow, an hour before the race begins, as always, 3 a.m. my local time. So if you appreciate me getting up very early in the morning to provide this for you, hit that like and subscribe button, guys. So Charles Leclerc goes quicker than Lando Norris in that first sector, and Oscar Piastri as well. So that Leclerc has been very, very quick in that first sector for a lot of this session, but not as quick as Isaac Hadjar, as Hadjar does a 32.0 in that first sector. We have 9 minutes remaining of this Q3 session. We're going to see multiple laps done on this set of intermediate tyres, and as we've seen throughout every session thus far, it is going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. So the first lap times are, of course, essential to getting a benchmark time in or a banker lap in, but they are not essential overall, maybe in the grand standings of things. So George Russell is about to start his lap as well. Charles Leclerc coming to the end of his lap. No purple sectors for him, as Lando Norris has the fastest middle sector. Carlos Sainz looking very good again. He's looking for a repeat of what he was able to achieve at Baku and get on that front row. Max Verstappen, a slow first sector for him, a 32.8. That's 8 tenths off of Carlos Sainz in that first sector. Charles Leclerc, though, is going to cross the start-finish line first. What is his lap time going to be? It's a 52.0. So 52.0 is not too shabby from Charles Leclerc, and you can see a fastest last sector there for him as he's the only driver to cross the finish line. And Lando Norris does. Oh, Lando has a moment, it seems, in the last sector, which has dramatically cost him there. Just watching the onboard of Lando Norris as Oscar Piastri goes quicker than him and slots into P2. But I'm struggling to see. Lando just seems to have just lost a lot of grip there on the exit and just couldn't get his power down. But Carlos Sainz is going quickest at the moment. Hadjar goes 7 tenths quicker than that of Charles Leclerc, so he's been able to light his tyres up. But Carlos Sainz does it best with a 50.8, so we are pushing towards the sub 50 seconds. So intermediates, these tyres are going to get more and more warmer and more into their peak performance window, as we can see, the more laps that they do. So Oscar Piastri goes quickest there. Lando Norris did have purple briefly until his teammate took it away, who is just behind him. Isaac Hadjar, though, we'll see how he fares. So not a better improvement for him. Lots of green sectors across the board. Max Verstappen could only go P6, so he also made an error there in the last sector. So, yeah, these drivers, expect them to improve. George Russell seems to have been able to fire his tyres up pretty quickly compared to everyone else today, but that doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly quick lap time for him either. As you can see, he is quite far off the pace right now. So has George Russell maybe gone out too late? Mercedes have definitely risked it by him being out there last to try and benefit from the track evolution. But he is going to be out of sync and be arguably a lap down on everyone when it comes to setting lap times. But come the end of the session, it could come to fruition for him. So Lando, fastest in the middle sector for him. He's gone 4 tenths quicker than his teammate in the middle sector. He's getting a cheeky little toe from Charles Leclerc ahead of him, who looks like he's made a mistake, Charles, and he's going very slow in the last sector. And your confirmation there of 48.221 as Lando does slightly benefit from that and gets across the line. First sub 50-second lap time that we have seen, but Oscar Piastri goes 5 tenths quicker than Lando in that last sector as Lando Norris almost going sideways through the exit of turn 15, by the way. Wow, Lando Norris really trying to get on power early, and it's not really quite working for him at the moment, and he's losing significant time in that last sector. As you can see, 7 tenths lost compared to his teammate Piastri, who was having much more luck with the traction out of turn 14. And 15. There's a yellow flag as Oscar Piastri. As I say that, though, commentator's curse, apologies. He goes straight on at turn 5. So I do suspect he'll be get moving again. He will do. Charles Leclerc has fallen behind Lando Norris, and Hadjar has just gone quickest out of anyone in the first sector, as Max Verstappen could only move to P5. Max Verstappen is still 2 seconds off of the pace. Where is Max Verstappen's pace gone? George Russell, though, he's flying right now. This seems to be an improvement for George Russell. Green in the first, green in the second. He's P10 at the moment, but as he makes his way into turn 14, he'll be able to control the rear of that Mercedes, no doubt. But all eyes on Isaac Hadjar. Could Isaac Hadjar get on the front row? Could he get pole position here? Liam Lawson is also improving as well. He's not too far behind his teammate at 31.4. There's a real opportunity here for the RBs to stick in a decent qualifying performance and qualify higher up than they normally would find themselves. Verstappen, though, there we go, finally getting some temperature in those intermediates. Is this where the tyre is now coming to him with 4.5 minutes remaining at 31.2, purple in the first sector. George Russell only moves up into P5, but we know he is down, he's almost a lap down compared to everyone else. Lando Norris clears Charles Leclerc, so he'll be looking for that clean air, and he will start his 3rd push lap in this Q3 session. Not often we see this many push laps in Q3, guys. Normally it's 2 and done. As George Russell, there we go. 31.1, fastest first sector for George Russell. Winner here last year in Vegas, 2-time winner this year. He's looking for his 3rd in a car that arguably has had very, very little races where it can win, but whenever there has been an opportunity for that car to win a race, George Russell has capitalised this year. Lawson, fastest last sector for him. He's up in P3 right now. Hadjar did have a bit of a slower last sector, so he wasn't able to capitalise on that improvement. And wow, Lando Norris, a 30.7 first sector. That's a significant improvement there, as it is for Charles Leclerc as well, 30.7. So we're now seeing sub 31s in that first sector. Lots of grip coming to these drivers out there now, as Max Verstappen moves up into P2 behind Oscar Piastri. So Max Verstappen slots in behind Oscar Piastri, and Oscar Piastri does a 30.9 as well in that first sector as Gasly moves up into P9. So Charles Leclerc is in P10 right now, but he needs to keep this car intact, and he should be able to make his way up the standings right now. So Lando Norris, he will have DRS open any moment. He's fastest in the first, he's fastest in the second. And well, McLaren, who we expected McLaren not to be even that quick here this weekend, but in these conditions, this is where maybe it will come to them, and Lando Norris might be able to maybe put one hand and a couple of fingers of his other on the Drivers' Championship if he's able to get ahead of his teammate, of course. We will see as George Russell has his lap time deleted at 157.6. Was what's that for? George Russell had a lap time deleted. Oh, George Russell made a mistake there as Lando Norris. Oh my goodness, 7.5 tenths improvement there for Lando Norris. Not a purple last sector either. So Lando Norris is still struggling in that last sector in comparison to his teammate. We'll see. Oscar has a very slow middle sector. He's 6 tenths off of his teammate's pace in the middle sector. He's considerably off his teammate's pace this lap. But what is his last sector time? He's still, you can see there, he's got the advantage on his teammate in that last sector by a good 3 tenths at the moment, Oscar. But he's losing time in that first and second. So there is potential here for Oscar to out-qualify Lando as it stands. So Charles Leclerc did move up into P6. Gasly is in P10 at the moment. Lando Fernando Alonso is in P9. George Russell does get sub 31 seconds. Max Verstappen, where can he go? It's slow in the middle sector and it's slow in the last sector, so Max stays P3. But you can see there that from P3 to P1, the Lando Norris, there is 8 tenths difference. So there is a big difference. The provisional pole is currently looking like it's Lando's. So very good lap time there for him. But there is an opportunity for Oscar Piastri, I do believe, as well for George Russell, but a slow middle sector for George Russell of 38.6. So that's not particularly quick for George Russell there. But so this may be just a lap to recharge the battery and go again. But we have just under a minute now to cross the finish line. So this is it for George Russell. No doubt this is George's moment. This lap, this is it for them. They're not going to have an opportunity to cross the finish line again. Lando Norris will have one more opportunity. So George Russell technically is going to have one less lap than that of Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri, because he's not going to have enough time. So I think Mercedes have fumbled it here, not sending out George Russell too late. Isaac Hadjar is going to improve here. This is it for Isaac Hadjar. George Russell's just gone fastest, though, in the first sector out of anyone. But can Lando improve, though? It's track. So George Russell, is he going to be able to improve? Pierre Gasly will have to move out of his way pretty swiftly and ensure he's not in the way here. George will be straight on the radio. Get out of my way! But Lando, can he improve in that first sector as he's about to cross that sector time as Hadjar moves up into P6, 1:49.554. Checkered flag confirmation there as Lawson moves up into P3 as Lando goes 3 tenths quicker than George Russell in that first sector. How about Oscar Piastri, though, as Sainz goes pole, provisional pole for Carlos Sainz. How about Max Verstappen? Can he go provisional pole? He can, by 0.04 of a second, 48.257. So Sainz P2, Max Verstappen P1, but Lando Norris is going purple in the first sector. Oscar Piastri is 4 tenths off of his teammate. George Russell does a 38.2 in the middle sector. It's not going to be good for George Russell. It's not going to be good for George unless it's a significant, a brilliant last sector for the Englishman. As Lando goes quicker again in the middle sector. He's the only driver to go sub 37 seconds in the middle sector today. How about Oscar Piastri? He's moused. No, Charles Leclerc brings out a yellow flag. Right as Oscar Piastri is approaching turn 12, and this has faulted any opportunity for Oscar Piastri to go back at Lando Norris and get pole position here. Such unfortunate timing for the Australian. But Lando, all eyes on him. George Russell did move up into P4. He slots in ahead of Oscar Piastri, and you can see Piastri has had to completely back out of his lap there. Terrible timing for him. But Lando Norris, all eyes on him. Purple in the first, purple in the second, and it is... oh, not purple in the last, but it is pole position for Lando Norris. And, oh my goodness, in conditions I did not expect. He wasn't even on my pole for pole. Lando Norris with a 47.9. He still wasn't able to sort out his Sector 3 time, but Sector 1 and Sector 2 was so good. He still qualified on provisional. He still qualified on pole by over 3 tenths. But Oscar Piastri, a real shame for him because he has ended up catching the yellow flag at the wrong time as Charles Leclerc took to the escape road. And, well, Carlos Sainz in P3. Carlos Sainz, what a lap from Carlos on the second row with George Russell in P4. Oscar Piastri is P5. Liam Lawson is P6. What a qualifying from Liam Lawson, out-qualifying Isaac Hadjar by half a second there. Fernando Alonso is in P7, Isaac Hadjar P8, Charles Leclerc P9, and Gasly P10. Woo. Oscar was 4 tenths down in the middle sector, was he? Okay, fair enough. He was 4 tenths down until he got to... I didn't know. I didn't have the mini sector times. Well, he was down... Oscar was down 4 tenths on Lando in the first sector, sorry. But the middle... the thing is that he still had an opportunity to get on the second row. On the front row. He would have improved, Oscar. He definitely would have improved, so. But there we go, guys. There we go. There we go. That is it for this qualifying session. Lando Norris is on pole position, and that is something we did not expect to see. However, I do suspect he will struggle to hold on to that P1 tomorrow in full race trim. These conditions, of course, helped Lando. they helped the McLarens, arguably, because in dry conditions, they are most definitely not the quickest car. And this is a track where we can see overtaking. So I think what we will see tomorrow is undoubtedly some overtaking out up front. As Lando is actually shocked. And Lando is actually shocked on the radio that he's got pole position. He's like, hang on a second. It's like, what? I got pole. No one else got a lap in. So there we go. There we go. 2 purple sectors. And yes, if we look at the sector times as well, he did a 40.6 in the last sector. That's 3 tenths off his fastest last sector. That which his last sector was 6 tenths off of Oscar Piastri's best last sector. So he was losing time significantly in that last sector compared to Oscar Piastri, who definitely had more confidence under the braking and just through that chicane of 14, 15 and 16. But the first sector, tremendously quicker. And of course, we'll never know if Oscar Piastri could have got sub 37 seconds in the middle sector because Charles Leclerc brought out the yellow flag. So he probably had that snap and thought it was over. Max got the inside line for turn 1. He has indeed, yeah. And remember he did that in 2023, forced Charles Leclerc off. So Science P3 is crazy. Yep, capitalising again on the conditions as he did in Baku. Will the race tomorrow be a race to the first corner? No. This is a race where this is a track where you definitely can overtake. Now, and the McLarens have not been a quick car in dry conditions. That's the key here. So while, of course, as we know, in this current iteration of Formula 1, it's difficult to follow. But this is a track where it's possible to overtake. And Max has more horsepower available to him, remember, with a brand new engine in the back of that car. And George Russell is very quick in that Mercedes as well. I think we could see a very good race tomorrow. I think this is actually a very good grid for tomorrow because I think Russell starting in 4th and Verstappen starting P2. If Norris holds on to the lead early on, then that could allow Russell to get past Sainz. What we need really is Russell to get past Sainz quite quickly. Sorry, Sainz fans, but if we want a good race tomorrow, I think personally we need Russell to clear Sainz quickly so that he's on the back of Verstappen because then Russell, I personally, from what I've seen, the Mercedes of Russell and the Red Bull of Max, they have quite equal pace here this weekend. And I think overall the race will be between those two. And I would love to see Verstappen versus Russell toe-to-toe for a race win. So if it stays dry, I don't know about the weather conditions. I think the weather conditions are dry still. But let me see if I can find... the weather for tomorrow is dry. So, yeah. I don't see Lando holding on to that lead. Will Max dive bomb Lando into turn 1? Of course he will. Yeah. He's going to take the opportunity. But he has to be careful. He has to ensure that his car is sufficiently alongside, remember? Because he did the same to Leclerc in Vegas in 2023, but was unable to keep his car on track as well. So you need to be able to do that. Do I see a smooth operation in Williams tomorrow? I do from Sainz, yes. I think a top 5, he will most undoubtedly take that. Of course, he'd love a podium. But I think realistically, the Williams will probably expect to have less pace than that of Oscar Piastri and George Russell. But expect to hold off Lawson and Alonso. Don't rule out Charles as well. I know Charles is starting in P9. But I still think that Ferrari has, and we know Charles could be a quick starter when needed. I think he can definitely make up some ground. He's going to have a quick car in dry conditions. But that Ferrari, we know they have to lift and coast so very early on. So looks like Oscar overshoots in. Well, Oscar would have been, as Oscar got to turn 11, he would have seen the yellow flags. So it just completely off-puts you. Regardless, I'm not going to put any blame on Oscar Piastri of overshooting turn 12 or whatever there. Like, he's got the yellow flag. He had to back out. He has to lift off. Those are the rules. So, is Alonso driving a shitbox? It's not a shitbox, but it's a car that's only really strong at certain circuits. So it's a car that's designed for more downforce. So this sort of circuit in dry conditions is a struggle for them. Unfortunately for Alonso, if he gets that car into points tomorrow, I think that's an absolutely tremendous effort because it doesn't suit them, this track. So, can the RBs finish in the top 5? I think they can finish in the top 5. Maybe need a little bit of assistance though. What was that? On the replay, it almost looked like the RB was trying to pass him. What are you saying there, Taco? Oh, Hamilton and Yuki in the points tomorrow. Hamilton in P20. Is he going to put a spicy engine in tomorrow? I think what you'll see from Hamilton, though, you definitely will see Hamilton revert to the spec, the rear wing spec that he had for FP3. Because that looked at a nice balance for him, and they added a little bit more downforce to the car, and I don't know, maybe it ruined the balance or whatever. But yeah, when you're starting P20, you might as well start from the pit lane, eh? What you got to lose? On the sorry, Yuki salary 2 million, Lewis salary 60. Can Yuki get a podium? Neither can Hamilton. Hamilton starts in the pit lane to avoid parc fermé, and not to avoid it, but to break parc fermé. Yes, so that they can make significant changes to the car. But I don't think there'll be significant changes to it. I think they'll just probably revert back to whatever the spec was for FP3. They've tried to add more downforce to the car to accommodate for the wet weather conditions, and I think for it just clearly didn't work out for him. I don't know if that's the sole reason, but I think if it's going to be, if you know, which it looks like it's definitely going to be dry tomorrow, you just revert back to the low downforce setup. So, Hadjar come out the inside during the yellow and caught Piastri off guard, which caused him to go wide in the escape road. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, but I guess at that time though, like under yellows, he'd already slowed for yellows. You know instantly as a driver that your lap's over and done with, especially in the closing stages to Q3. Like Q1 and Q2, yeah, you could still get through even in these conditions, but not when you're trying to go for pole. Like, race is on Saturday US time, not Saturday UK time. People saying Lando doesn't deserve the World Drivers' Championship can shut up. This ain't McLaren's best track, and he still locks in, even with a slight wiggle at the end. Yeah, you can't deny the performance there from Lando. And I disagree with people who say he's not deserving of it. Look, the driver who wins the championship at the end of the year is deserving of it. They've, for whatever reason, they've ended up, unless that a driver gets disqualified or something for ridiculous reason or whatever. But look, they've put themselves in that position regardless, and Lando has done that. And what we're seeing in the second half of the season, look, it's a long season, 24 race season, and Lando got off to a very poor start. And you have to give him credit where it's due. He's dug deep. He plugged away at the points, and he's now leading by 24 points. So could be leading even more tomorrow, and get it wrapped up in Qatar, because Oscar Piastri's P5. So that's not what Oscar would want to see. But I don't expect him to win the race tomorrow. I really don't. Has Oscar been unlucky in recent races, or is it more down to him not doing enough? It's more down to him not doing enough. I wouldn't put luck down to it. I think if you look at the performances of Oscar, as we discussed just before Q3 started, it just haven't been up to par. Especially when your teammate has raised his game. And then here, he is unlucky. He definitely is unlucky. I think there was an opportunity for him to maybe get on. What is there an opportunity to get on pole? I mean, that last sector time alone, that Oscar, I undoubtedly would have assumed he would improve on. I think Oscar could have. I don't know if is there mini sector times. We can probably see mini. Let's have a look and see if we can see mini sector times. Or maybe actually, is it this one that's got mini sector times? So he was green in the early stages of Sector 2. And then, yeah, he was green in the early stages of Sector 2. I don't know where this starts here. But so he could have improved until he hit the yellow flag. He probably could have improved in that middle sector. Probably not purple, probably not enough to be Norris, but then that last sector was definitely where there would have been a difference. As we've seen, like he had a significant advantage over Lando in that last sector, which could have made all the difference. So I think him turning off the Delta has helped him more than people think. Yeah, true. I mean, it's the same as like in the sim and things like that. Like you can focus too much. You can sometimes put too much focus and effort on looking at kind of unnecessary pieces of information. And focus on that more so than what is just actually driving. And it's the same with kind of a lot of sports. You can sometimes you need to just get back to basics. Just focus on what it is that you do best, and that is the sport that you're good at, rather than all the additional information. There's a time and place for it. Just definitely helped him mentally. It's Oscar's third year. He'll continue to grow. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. The problem is for Oscar is that it is his third year, and look, he will continue to grow. You expect he'll continue to grow, but you just never know when the opportunities for a championship is going to come your way. So there's no guarantee that McLaren are going to be at the top of the tree again with this new regulation set. They may be towards the bottom. So you just never know. So you have to try and take those opportunities when they come to you. And I think, look, no matter what Oscar's experience is, if you gave him an opportunity, if you said to Oscar, do you believe if you had a 31, what was the league? What was the gap? 32 or 34? I can't remember. If you had the points gap that you had after Zandvoort with that many races remaining, would you take it and would you back yourself to win that championship? And he would 100% say yes. So Lawson did really good. Yeah, Lawson did really good. So I saw someone ask who the RB seats are going to be for next year. I think Lawson will stay next year. I think he deserves an opportunity to stay in RB. It does seem like Arvid Lindblad. It does seem like Hadjar's going to move up into the Red Bull seat. Yuki moves out. Hadjar moves up. Lawson stays where he is, and Arvid Lindblad comes in. I think Lawson, regardless of whether Hadjar moves up or not, Lindblad comes in or not, I think Lawson deserves an opportunity to stay in that seat. And I think he's shown good enough performances this year. And look, this is still, it took him time to get back up to some confidence. I think it'd be good to see Lawson start a season in like a seat that he's comfortable in, or at least an environment he's comfortable in. So that would be, I think he deserves that. And then you evaluate it there. Lindblad should stay in F2. I personally think he should stay in F2. Yeah, I think from what I've seen with Lindblad, there's quite a lot of like rookie errors that I've seen from Lindblad. Big rookie errors where I think he could do with another year in F2. But sometimes F2 isn't the be-all and end-all though, isn't it? So sometimes they think, look, he's better off learning in F1 than he is learning in F2. I'll give it a few years for his fans to mature first. That's like it with any fans, though. You could literally have... I'll tell you what, we could have a championship battle next year between Nico Hülkenberg and... I don't know, I'm trying to think of people who are kind of like quite obscure in the grand scheme of things. We could have a championship battle next year with Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly, right? There will be some crazy fans of those somewhere, of those drivers somewhere that will come out of the pipeline. Every driver's got them, unfortunately. And the problem is that they're the most vocal. That's the thing. It's like anything. It's the vocal minority. Is that the word? Yeah, so. Go do a season of Super Formula. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Like Liam Lawson did. After this year, do I see the McLaren having a clear number one driver, saying that one of them has a championship to his name? No, I see it being a Mercedes situation. Same thing. Mercedes could have done the same thing once Lewis won 2014. Like, he's got 2 world championships now, 2 different teams, but they still gave equal opportunity to Nico Rosberg and Lewis to fight it out for the title. And I think McLaren will do the same. If they want to keep Oscar, they most definitely have to do that. And they signed him onto a long-term deal earlier on in the season, or didn't they? Or end of last season. So they have to. If they don't, then they're going to lose him. And the problem is, I guess, for McLaren, is that they've signed Oscar on a long-term deal. They've let some good rookies go out of their system. So let's say they went, okay, we're just going to back Lando. He's going to be our number 1 driver. Do we let Oscar go? Who do they replace him with? They're going to have to spend some cash because they've let Alex Dunn go. They let Gabriel Bortoleto go, who's now in, of course, Stake F1/Audi. I don't know who they've got waiting in the wings. They'd have to buy someone else, wouldn't they? Hadjar and Lawson have pretty good chemistry, and we know what happens when you max teammate. Yeah, true. I don't know. I think that's why they haven't announced anything yet, is because they're still assessing everyone's performances, and they probably genuinely haven't made a decision yet on the Red Bull seats. They don't know in which order it's going to be. So, do I see McLaren keeping the ridiculous papaya rules next year? I think not to the extent they are now, no. I think the papaya rules were a luxury this year because they've had overall the quickest car. There have been certain tracks, of course, where the Red Bull has been strong and got in the mix of things, but for the majority of this year, the McLaren has been the quickest car, and they've had the luxury of having these papaya rules. The Monza thing, touching on that, they had the luxury that there was a large enough gap for them to swap those positions. There was no cars in between them, etc. There's no cars close behind them. So they had the luxury. But I think next year, it would just be a case of the same rule. It'll probably be dumbed down a bit, and it'll just be like, yeah, don't make contact with your teammates. Don't crash your teammate out. And I think that's probably what will happen moving forward. This is if Lando stays. He said before that he'd think about leaving after a title win. I don't know. I think people say things in the moment. I don't think Lando would look at moving on. Why would he? Especially in a new... Yeah, just watching Lando... Oh my goodness, Lando had a big moment out of turn 16. So that's why he lost so much time. I don't know why. Don't know why you'd leave McLaren. To be fair, I think that's your best opportunity, unless you move to maybe like Mercedes, which isn't going to happen. I think McLaren's a good place to be in for the foreseeable right now. Just hang on, just listening to Oscar Piastri's interview. Yeah, Oscar saying he got caught by the yellows on the last lap. Said the start of the lap didn't go well for him. Oh, that's interesting. He said operationally there was a couple of things he had to mess around with that didn't go the way that he wanted at the start of the lap. Interesting. McLaren in first place, yeah, because of the track conditions. So, do I reckon I'll try out Formula E this year? It's never really taken my fancy, to be honest with you. I've never got on board with Formula E, so probably not. Who, in my opinion, is the best rookie on the grid? For this season, Isaac Hadjar, I still think is the best rookie on the grid. I think they've all had their moments. I think overall, as a collective, I think the rookies have been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, and a breath of fresh air. We've been calling for it for quite some time, for some fresh blood on the grid, and we finally got it, and I think they have all provided. They're all in different teams, so not every single race weekend is going to be really good for them. Some are going to be struggles, but that's going to help their growth. They have to go through those struggles. They can't just Very, very rarely now does a rookie join and just get the rub of the green and everything's brilliant for them from the outset. 2 seconds. Sorry. So I think all of them have done a very good job. The only one I would say didn't was Jack Doohan. I did see someone comment saying Doohan. I don't think Doohan did really anything at any point. Of course, he was in Alpine, which is also a difficult environment to be in. But I don't think even then he did anything that really impressed against Gasly. Of course, he was always on the back foot anyway from the start of the season because we knew his time was limited. But, yeah. Yeah, qualifying's over. Qualifying's over. But anywho, guys, that is it for me. That is it. Thank you for joining us for this qualifying session. It's a very early morning qualifying session. We'll be back, of course, for the race tomorrow at the same time, or earlier, actually, 3 a.m. So I'm surprisingly awake right now, actually. I'm probably going to stay awake. And I'm probably going to stay awake for her first wake window, little one's first wake window. Give the missus a lay-in, you know. So, yeah, have a lovely rest of your Saturday. We will catch up with you for the race at 3 a.m. I'm going to run a poll of who we think will win, but I think this grid is interesting for the race because Lando, I don't see that McLaren in dry conditions holding on to P1. I just don't. I think this is ultimately going to be a race between Verstappen and Russell tomorrow, if Russell can clear signs quick enough, which I think he can do. So, but yeah, thank you everyone. Have a lovely rest of your Saturday, and yeah, we will see you bright and early for, well, I say bright and early, it's not even going to be bright, it's going to be pitch black dark 3 a.m. for me in the UK. So yeah, have a lovely rest of your Saturday, and we'll catch you for the race tomorrow. So yeah, thanks guys, thanks for the subs and likes as always. See you then, bye.